When Apple announced the new iPhones last year, I knew right away that the iPhone 13 Pro was the one for me. It wasn't too small like the 13 mini, it had a better camera system than the regular 13, and it wasn't as big and bulky as the 13 Pro Max. So I bought the Pro with the intention of using it as my main phone. But now, after using it for the past 6.5 months and seeing both the pros and the cons, I wanted to share my updated thoughts and why some of my views have changed. So let's start with the design and let's talk about that notch, because we did get a slightly smaller notch on the 13 compared to the 12, but honestly, I don't even see the notch anymore when I use my phone. It's always there, but my brain kind of just looks past it and I don't even notice it unless I look really closely at the phone and I actually look for the notch. But aside from that, it is a little bit heavier than the 12 Pro, but not near as heavy as the 13 Pro Max. And that's one of the bigger reasons I never switched over to the Pro Max full time as my primary phone. It's now just my beta phone. It was just too bulky for me, especially in my pockets, like when I'm wearing basketball shorts or sweatpants and I go up and down the stairs. It's too bulky. It just jiggles around way too much in my pocket and bangs into walls in my pockets. So I think the 13 Pro is definitely the right size for me. But then again, if you have really large hands, you may actually prefer the 13 Pro Max. So it's all about perspective, and of course it does come down to personal preference. But this 13 Pro has held up great over the past 6.5 months. I've dropped it several times, but thankfully every time I did, it was rocking both a screen protector and a case. Although even if I didn't have a case or a screen protector, it would probably still be fine if it was dropped, maybe from waist height or a little bit higher, thanks to Apple's ceramic shield. And that ceramic shield, which by the way, that's just the glass on the front and the back. That's just Apple's marketing term for the glass. And they said it's going to be, even better on the 13 than the 12. But after watching all the drop test videos, it seems like it's about the same as the 12. But that's not something I'm ever gonna have to worry about, because again, I have a screen protector and a case on my phone pretty much at all times. And if you're wondering what case this is a Pataka case. I will leave it linked down in the description below. And the screen protector is just from Amazon, but I'll link my exact one down there as well. You can see we have a little nick down here, but it did protect my phone from getting cracked. And speaking of that durability, it's also IP68 dust and water resistant, but I haven't dropped mine in a pool yet, so I can't comment on submerging it underwater, but it has been wet dozens of times. It's been wet from rain, it's been wet from a shower, it's been wet from multiple things. I've never felt concerned for the phone. I never had any issues with it or anything like that. So durability wise, A+ for the iPhone 13 Pro. Now the display on this iPhone 13 Pro is easily the best we've ever seen from Apple. So we have a 6.1 inch Super Retina XDR display, but the key here and what makes this display so special is ProMotion, which means that we get 120 Hz refresh rates. And that makes this display so much better than any other iPhone we've had in the past. And honestly, this was amazing right off the bat. And everyone I handed this phone to could tell it was more smooth and just quicker to respond than their 60 Hz iPhones. But what really made this display feel worth it over time is when third-party applications got updated to take advantage of all of the 120 Hz refresh rate animations. And that just happened recently with iOS 15.4. So I'm not sure why it took so long, but now I feel that power of this display when browsing Instagram, Twitter, or pretty much any application I use on a daily basis. And even aside from the ProMotion display, the extra 200 nits of brightness that we get on the iPhone 13 Pro compared to the 12 Pro is actually noticeable. So we have 1,000 nits of typical brightness and 1,200 nits when watching HDR content. And if you're in sunshine a lot like I am, that extra 200 nits, like I said, makes a noticeable difference. And if you're watching HDR content, that 1,200 nits of max brightness is super noticeable, and it gets really, really bright. And you can watch movies, out of the pool in direct sunlight and have no issue watching them. Of course, your phone probably will get hot and it'll dim down, but at first it will look really good in direct sunlight. And if you are out at the pool watching videos in the sunshine, you might also be wondering about the speaker quality. And let me just say that these external speakers are awesome. They're a little bit louder than the iPhone 12 series, not a ton louder, but it is noticeable. But the big thing I noticed is the quality of sound seems to be better on the 13, in addition to being a little bit louder. So no complaints whatsoever with the speakers. I do find myself using AirPods most of the time when I watch videos, but when I'm out eating lunch, or maybe I'm out somewhere else watching videos without my AirPods, I don't have my AirPods with me, the speakers are great. They're just fine. And honestly, they get too loud in most situations, so I almost never have it even near max volume. Now, another feature that Apple did not add until just about a month or two ago is Face ID with a mask. And this feature came with iOS 15.4, and it allows you to unlock your iPhone 12 or iPhone 13 with Face ID while wearing a mask. And while most of us really aren't wearing masks every day anymore, at least not in the United States, this feature is still excellent, and it's a lot more accurate than I ever expected it to be, especially while wearing a mask and glasses at the same time. It works really well, and it's great for kind of future-proofing this phone as well, because we never know when another pandemic or something happens and we actually need a feature like that. So it's really nice to have. And a big part of the reason that Apple's able to achieve that Face ID with a mask feature is because of the chipset inside. So we have the A15 Bionic, and that thing is just an absolute monster. So this phone eats up anything that I throw at it, whether that's gaming, video editing, video exporting, opening up dozens of applications and then switching between them. It's all seamless. And not to mention we have that ProMotion display, which already just makes everything feel more smooth and fast than it really is. So really no complaints at all with the performance. I've never had to reboot my device because things were being slow or anything like that. I've really not run into any hiccups on this device. And if you pair that performance with the 6 gigabytes of RAM, your apps stay open in the background for basically ever. I mean, apps hardly ever have to fully relaunch unless I reboot my phone. So that's one of my favorite things about the iPhone 13 Pro. I can go into Call of Duty and then go out and respond to some tweets, maybe make a phone call, and then come right back into Call of Duty, and it's still there in the same match. So that's all just awesome. Now, before we talk about my absolute favorite feature of the iPhone 13 Pro, let's hear a word from one of the channel's favorite sponsors, Canva. Canva is my favorite place to go when I need to create literally anything, whether it's a card, an invoice, a presentation, a social media post. Canva is the first place I go. And the reason being is because they have a million different templates to get your design started. You don't have to, come up with a design from scratch. You could just scour through their extensive selection of templates, drag and drop some graphics and text on there, and you're good to go. Canva is free to use, and even though you can easily get by with just the free version, you'll unlock the true potential of this platform if you upgrade to the Pro version. This gets you access to the really fancy templates, the stock photos, music, tools, and much more. It's also a no-brainer if you have a team, a small team, since you can collaborate with up to 4 other team members in real time, and you also have a really cool content planner built in to keep everybody on track. So if you want to test out the Pro version of Canva completely free for 45 days, click my link down in the description below. This is going to be your best way to try out Canva and the infinite possibilities it brings. And big shout out to Canva for sponsoring this segment of the video. So my favorite thing about the iPhone 13 Pro is the camera. And I feel like I say this almost every single year, but Apple just keeps upping their game. And this time around, it seems like we've hit a new milestone, a new norm, so to speak. So photos turn out incredibly well in pretty much any lighting condition, thanks to both the bigger camera lenses and especially that Smart HDR4. When I shoot a shot inside, it looks excellent. When I shoot a shot in the sky with the sun directly in view, it's not overexposed. And when I shoot a shot at night, it turns out great, even without night mode turned on. So it seems like any lighting situation that's thrown at the iPhone 13 Pro, it just handles it with ease. Now, I mentioned I don't use night mode very often, but it's still awesome. It's greatly improved on the iPhone 13 series. I just don't need it often because of how big those lenses are. A lot of light is allowed in. So unless it's like really dark or you just really need a boost to the image, night mode's not really needed that often, but it does look great in some situations. Another feature I realize I don't use very often is photographic styles. So this was cool for like the first month because it is an iPhone 13 exclusive feature, but I just simply never feel the need to add a filter or change how my photos look. So I like the way that the iPhone takes pictures, so I don't feel the need to add a filter on top of them. But if you do like a more saturated or a more cooler temperature look, you could play around with that in settings, or you could even do it directly from the camera application, which is pretty cool. Now, one feature that I do use very often is macro photography, and this is easily the most fun feature ever put in an iPhone, ever. And I love being able to get super close to objects and just having the option to take a macro shot. So look at this. I can zoom in really close here on this iPhone case, and I can basically make a background if I wanted to. My hand's shaking there, but you can see here, if I get really close like this and let it focus for a second, I may need to get a little further back. But if I take this picture right here, take a look at that. That could be a background somewhere. I can do some little edits to it and make that a background for my phone or something like that. So it's really cool. There's so many possibilities with macro photography. And as you saw down there in the bottom left-hand corner, you have the option to turn that off if you want to, straight from the camera application, which is pretty neat. And if you take a lot of selfies, you will love the camera on the iPhone 13 Pro. The front-facing camera, as I just took an embarrassing photo of myself, you can see the quality is excellent. Of course, you can't tell just from that, but take my word, the photo quality is amazing on that selfie camera for the iPhone 13 Pro. I noticed an improvement even from the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. So definitely a nice improvement there with the selfie camera. The video though is going to be about the same as it was on the iPhone 12. And speaking of video, it's also incredible. And it's easily the best on any smartphone out there in my opinion. And I don't really think it's that close. So the quality of video has improved slightly over the iPhone 12 Pro thanks to Smart HDR4 and the bigger camera lenses. But the added features are what really makes this phone special. So we have sensor shift OIS, which helps with steadiness while walking or even running. We have the improved 3x optical zoom and 15x digital zoom, which is very handy. I love the 3x optical zoom. I use that pretty much every time I take photos or videos. I use it way more than the ultra wide camera lens. We also have cinematic mode, which is just awesome for taking movie-like short clips. I don't use it super often, but when I do, I always ask myself why I don't use it more often. It's so cool, and it doesn't even look like it was taken from an iPhone. When you take a video, it's only in 1080p. That's the only resolution it's available for, but it just looks so awesome. And you have to tone down a little bit the bokeh on it, otherwise it looks too fake. But I love cinematic mode, and I wish I used it more. And then we have ProRes video. So I did play around with this for a while and compared the differences between ProRes and regular 4K 60 video, and you can see differences, especially in low lights and really dark colors, but only if you're looking at the videos side by side. And with the amount of space that these videos take up, if you read right here, it says that 1 minute of 10-bit HDR video is 6 gigabytes for shooting in 4K. 6 gigabytes for 1 minute. So you can see how that will add up, and you'll need a ton of space to shoot video in ProRes. But to me, it's just simply not worth it. I mean, you cannot tell a difference unless you compare the two side by side. And the video is already so good on the iPhone that I just don't see any reason to shoot video in ProRes on the iPhone 13 Pro. So when you shoot a lot of video or take a lot of photos, you do sacrifice your battery life. But luckily with the iPhone 13 Pro, you'd have to be out shooting all day to run this battery down. And I say that because I easily get through an entire day on one charge, unless of course I'm having an ADHD episode and I just watch TikToks all day and don't get any work done. But other than that, I usually get through an entire day on just one charge. And I did also want to say that until the iOS 15.4.1 update came along, I don't think we were seeing the full potential of the battery in the iPhone 13 Pro. So iOS 15.4 was the update that caused bad battery drain on this phone, but 15.4.1 fixed it and then some. It seems like I'm getting even better battery life now than I was when the phone first came out. Now, as far as the battery capacity goes, I tried something new this year. So you guys know how I make all those videos telling you how to get, the best battery health and how to maintain 100% battery health. Well, I decided to ignore all of my advice. I did nothing in those videos just to see if those tips were actually useful. I wanted to test out my own theory and see if I just ignored everything that I put out there, all the tips, everything that Apple tells you, everything I tell you, if you could still have 100% battery health after 6 months. And let's see those results. There you have it. That's why you should follow all the advice I give in my videos pertaining to capacity, battery capacity. So I've been letting this phone drain down from 100% to 0% every single time. I don't charge the phone at night. I'm doing everything the opposite of what I say in those videos, and it proved my theory correct, and it proved that those videos actually do make a big difference and are actually something you should follow. So all in all, I love the iPhone 13 Pro. I think it's the best phone on the market for me, and I think for a lot of other people as well. So unless you have big hands and just don't mind the extra bulk, choose the iPhone 13 Pro over the 13 Pro Max. I've seen a lot of scenarios where the 13 Pro Max is just too big for most people. But again, there are always exceptions. Go into an Apple store if you can and test out both in your hand and in your pocket to see which one you like better. And also, it's not very often that I recommend the Pro iPhone to your average consumer over the regular base model, but this year, I think the 120 hertz display, the added battery life, and the improved camera quality is well worth the extra cost from the 13 up to the 13 Pro. Even if you're coming from an iPhone 12 or 12 Pro, I think it's worth upgrading to the 13 Pro because it's really a big difference even from the 12 Pro to the 13 Pro. I mean, everybody has noticed a pretty substantial difference in the display quality, the battery life, and the camera quality. So those things alone are, I think, worth it to upgrade from the 12 to the 13 as well. Now, of course, you can always wait to see what's coming next year with the iPhone 14, but I don't think you should play that game if you want or need a phone now. Get what you want now and don't worry about the next shiny object. It's going to be an endless cycle that you're going to do every single year. And if it does end up being something you really want and really like, just sell or trade your iPhone 13 in and you're going to be more than halfway to the cost of your 14 or 14 Pro. So that's the way I look at it. I think if you want it, you should get it. You shouldn't just, base it off of what could come in the future. But those are my thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro. I think it's an excellent phone that's going to last a very long time. If you get this phone, I don't think you'll need to upgrade for at least 3 years. That's my opinion, unless of course you just hate the notch and you want to switch over to the new design. But to me, I look right past it. I don't see it. And I think most people are the same. So those are my thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up, and also make sure to subscribe for more iPhone 13 and iPhone 14 coverage. Also, if you have this phone, let me know your overall thoughts on it after 6 months, or if you just got it yesterday. Whenever you got your iPhone 13 Pro, let me know your thoughts about it down there in those comments below. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.